Yeah, hello, good fellows. It's a quick elaboration trying to, you know, call upon you. Engage in the video, watch the video, be part of my video, see the ideas I'm trying to put through. In fact, there might be a few things that I probably have mentioned that I never gave real reference to, that I want to give reference to now, and you could check it out, and also for you to look out for the current or the next session of the videos, that series of videos that may come up of certain presentation of how I go about, especially the ideas of what I make comment on regarding the West, which I normally say the West. I'm also a child of the West because I somehow have come out of the same generation. In fact, the whole world right now emulates or somehow depletes herself in ideas of what the West puts forth, because democracy, a lot of things, the way of dressing, our casual dressing normally goes along the Western style. Our ideas and advancement in any form of shape that we see has come from the West. The West's ideas have transformed and changed the religion, culture, so many things. So since my topic based on religion and culture, you must understand that the focus will go on that side. But just for the sake of having a wrong view and the sake of you thinking in a way which might bring some sort of disagreement, or for you to be in a state of feeling that I'm really picking on the West or anything of that sort. I have to elaborate on this. I have to really point it out for you to get a clear picture. That is not the idea. It is anything that we mention or I mentioned. Now, I think I've said it in my previous video. The West of today is nothing of what should be, what was at the past. If I say the worst, it's something to do with the past. We are dwelling on the past. We have got the past errors that is living on our life. It is the meanness of the ancestral approach to life at that time, which mostly were coming from the West, the Portuguese, the English, whoever the group were. And the meanness approach that they had, and the greediness, which has been not just the West, but it has been like a normal thing at a time of those of the old times. The world was so big, large vast of land, and as long as you can want to have anything you want to have, you can reach out and have. If you want a land, if you found a land, that land you found becomes yours. You live there. You don't have to make any documents. In fact, as times goes on, development came through the Roman Empire and all those empires. People became more smarter. People became very smarter, and they decided to develop, documents to protect what they've got. So there wasn't the idea of other people will be coming. And if I live there and I die, I go, somebody comes to find it, you also live there. They sort of preserve it for themselves and their ancestors and the generation that they comes of, as they procreate. They live there, it becomes their habitat, and they live it and they keep it for themselves. So because that is the structure or the nature of how human beings have come about, the groups that have strongly, really dominated the idea and have held on to this strategy have been able to kept on that trend, that tradition so much that it has held on to that science, and it is more centered and found in the West, which we see as people who have got the smartness and ideas of which being able to held on to things, and the things they implemented has given them the long-term assurance and guarantees. So you can do anything and say things, hold on to the West and put aside the West. You can put aside because they actually are leading in every way, So it's nothing to do with any offense, but as in their leading, where it has come from, the roots of it, definitely is an ancestral roots. Your ancestor, the ancestors of the West at that time, has built the nation of the advancement state that we are in today. So there is no doubt about that. So when I pick on that to express some of the things that were happening at that time, that even today the West and most other people don't even agree nor condone, because the same laws, that changed the world, has made the world more better and acceptable today, comfortable, has come from the same West. It is the Western democracy that has made it better. It is the same Western democracy that has softened the meanness of the past of those of the West, their own ancestors. And when they did at that time, that they had to reform the laws today, amend laws today, which, within it has softened that meanness, but I stress on it because it has to be softened more. It has to be more softened to the extent which we don't even feel the sense of it or smell it. There are people today of the West, and if they show the slightest character of meanness, it becomes very, very unacceptable. It becomes very resentful. It becomes, very, very hateful. It becomes very a problem to some of us, or people like our nature. So for us to be very happy, which I am so forcefully want to see the happiness to come among all race, all color, or sections, So it becomes a matter of something which I address on it, not based on the current state, but if there are slight of it, which there is, which if one do not address, it might erupt and become something else. You sense it more of these things in the religious sector, in the preachings, in the teachings, as we keep holding on to the past presentation of the religion and the culture. It still hangs in there, because those places, it's like you can't amend it. They're only using translation to do the amendment, but that was also dangerous, because we are talking about a divine God. He hasn't made the changes, so how can you make the changes? That is what I also address on in my videos as well. So it's nothing that is for you to realize that it is not authentic, it is not as true as you may think for this generation. Neither is it something which is going to be beneficial for us to be holding on to or using as a guide. But then again, we have to really think about things very carefully as we go through. But it is very fundamental, very, very, crucial for us to come to that realization, the fact that if I mention the West and I say it of the past, of those of the past, of the ancestral thing, and to sort of bring to mind those who want to hold on to the meanness and the bad characters of the past. And so definitely it will link to the West, and not just the West, a few other people also, a few other individuals might not necessarily be of the West, but had that same sort of character. It was something that it was something that was commonly done at the time, as I've just said. But it's more closer to see that the West held on to it more strongly. And so they held on to it to the extent that we recently clearly remember what we call slaves and all the slave trade and all those. It came as a result of that. I mean, if a human being is not that mean, would he put his other fellow being through such a process or such a tight and difficult act? No. But today, the West won't do that. Today, even if the West would do that, they have to do it in a very smart way that it will not be noticed. But hardly, because the way things have been implemented, that is the democratic way of doing things and all that, it's hard for such things to go on. And it's no more of the kings and the queens where they have a permanent rule, until somebody comes to topple the king and take the king off and take over. Apart from that, it was just a one authoritative dictatorship rule at that time. And so as I said, ruling corrupts, staying in power for as long as you want to really corrupts people. Today we're having the same problem. Libya, Iraq, so many countries which are of dictators or people who want to stay in power forever, ended up being so corrupt and mean, and exercising that godly nature, had no respect for anyone, and they feel within themselves that nothing is above them, and in their uncontrollable states, ends them up provoking outsiders for them to topple them down. So you can see that this is what is happening now, and the same thing went on at that time. But the same Western people, Western group of nations have in their strength, because as the generation has changed, we all have grown out of that. So you might end up, have been in a developing country or a developing state, but you may have somebody who